The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is a masterpiece. It may just be my favorite video game of all time, and like many of you watching, I know it like the back of my hand. What happens, though, if someone who has never played Ocarina of Time gives it a try? My girlfriend Ellie is that person, and in this video, she's going to have 5 hours to explore the game and accomplish as much as she can. Will a newcomer appreciate the game as much as a veteran? Let's jump in and find out. We began with one of the greatest title screens in video game history. Oh baby, that music gets me every time. I was so excited to jump into this game. I've got great respect and some light familiarity with Zelda 1 and A Link to the Past, but Ocarina of Time is really where my deep Zelda love originates. I figured Ellie may not immediately feel the same passion, but hey, you never know. The game opens up with the Great Deku Tree, providing some wise narration.
The Deku Tree. You told me once that I would know what that was in another video. You said that.
Cue flashback.
After a little more character development, we met the Great Deku Tree.
The Great Deku Tree.
Huh?
The Great Deku Tree.
What's that?
One day it will make sense.
Everybody remember this moment. One day it will make sense for her.
We cut to Link, who's in the middle of having a horrible nightmare. A young woman appears to be on the run from one scary-looking fella. After this, the Great Deku Tree beckons Navi, a dutiful fairy, to track down the boy without a fairy, as he senses profound evil on the rise. Navi flies into Kukuri Forest, our opening location. Kukiri? I've always said Kukuri. She manages to find Link, or Ellie, oversleeping, and gets our adventure in motion.
Oh, so the D-pad doesn't work anymore.
The D-pad is no longer an option.
Oh, this move's kind of funky.
This first shot retains the top-down aesthetic of the last 2 Zelda games we've covered, but Ellie can kiss that perspective goodbye. The rest of the game is fully 3D, thanks to the power of the Nintendo 64. This is, of course, a massive paradigm shift that completely changes the game. Ocarina of Time has an entirely different sense of scale compared to, say, A Link to the Past. It makes for a much grander adventure than what was possible before, but it also carries with it a pretty steep learning curve for someone more familiar with a modern control scheme.
Moving around in 3D felt really different at first and hard to navigate because I'm always used to 2 analog sticks, so figuring out camera angles in 3D in a way I didn't have to before in 2D is hard knowing it's a game made for 1 analog stick. So that's been the biggest adjustment, is figuring out moving around.
I'm so confused. What is happening?
Unsurprisingly, Ellie was immediately trying to figure out how to control the camera as you would with a second analog stick, but the Nintendo 64 controller didn't have one of those. Camera control was much more limited here, with a button responsible for centering it behind Link. Holding that button down locks Link onto characters, items, or enemies, something that Ellie would have to learn in due time if she wanted to make progress.
This is so hard. A rupee? Ah, no.
We started slowly combing through the village as Ellie acclimated herself to movement and camera control. Her current mission was to speak with the Great Deku Tree, but when she tried to do so, she was told that permission wouldn't be granted until she had equipped a sword and shield. At this point, we didn't have either one of those, so the new goal was to find them. Whereas earlier Zelda games started out very quickly, Ocarina of Time eases the player in. It's almost impossible to lose all of your health in this area unless you're really trying to, which gives the player time to immerse themselves in the world around them. Ellie walked inside the various buildings, finding herself some hearts and rupees in the process. She also found a house featuring some rather knowledgeable brothers that provided her with some tutorials, helping her understand the basics. It's funny, it's been so long that I've been in this house that I forgot it even existed. I'd forgotten how much the game helps you learn if you're in need of it.
If I could grab it, it would let me, right?
Yeah.
Sadly, Link had lost his ability to pick up bushes after A Link to the Past. We're going to need a sword for this now. Ellie finally ventured into the shop, where she found one half of what she needs, the Deku Shield. The only issue is that it costs 40 rupees, which we didn't have. Ellie would need to more than double her current funds if she were to buy it. By gating the shield behind a paywall, the game forces you to learn its economy system before you ever leave safety, which is an effective way to introduce rupees. We made it into the only area in Kukuri Village that actually presented danger to the player.
No. Ah! We got some Indiana Jones again.
Despite her run-in with death, Ellie managed to find the kukri sword. Now she finally had a means of offense, but for now all she could really use it for is to chop down some bushes. Despite missing a few rupees here and there, Ellie slowly saved up the cash to make the purchase. With shield in tow, we now had what we need to pass Mido and head on to the Deku Tree. Before we could get there though, Ellie had to face her first bout of combat.
I'm using the wrong button again, but that was fun.
She took a little bit of damage but made it through regardless and got some Deku sticks to boot. These would come in handy later. We met the great Deku Tree who informed us of the terrible evil befalling the land. The solution is, you guessed it, to walk inside his mouth and destroy the malevolence inside of him. She didn't know it yet, but Ellie had just entered into Ocarina's first dungeon. One of my favorite parts of this game is how distinctive and memorable the dungeons are. They blend together a bit in earlier games, for me at least, but now everyone feels rooted in the world itself.
Oh, this is a dungeon.
This is a dungeon. This is your first dungeon.
As Ellie approached these vines, Navi informed her that they could be climbed.
So I can't attack while I'm climbing.
It doesn't appear so.
Well, how the hell do I do this? Aha! What the hell? I don't know how to do this.
We had ourselves a problem. Because she was told that she could climb these vines, Ellie thought that she needed to climb the vines. In reality, she couldn't climb them yet because they were being guarded by these skull wall tullas. There's no way I'm pronouncing that right. She needed to obtain the slingshot to kill them, but she thought the door that would lead her to the slingshot was locked. It's not locked though, and I think the reason she thought it was is because the previous 2 Zelda games she played only featured doors in dungeons if they were locked. Otherwise, it was just an open doorway. If she saw a door, Ellie could only assume that it was locked.
But that would clearly be how to get to the next part, because this is locked.
Who said the door's locked?
I don't know, it just looked locked. It looked like a big locked door. I look so dumb.
No.
The next room contained this Deku scrub that shoots projectiles at Link. Getting up close with the sword, as Ellie was attempting, wouldn't work, so she was going to need to figure something else out. Ellie was locked in this room upon entering, which meant that she had no choice but to solve the issue at hand before she could move on. She was confused about what to do until she eventually got some info from Navi about reflecting his projectiles. She did this quickly thereafter, but before she could approach the scrub, he went back underground. She needed to target him before she could proceed. The importance of Z targeting in Ocarina of Time cannot be overstated. Beyond making combat far more manageable, it's also often the only way to progress.
Did I hit it?
Next up was this room with a collapsing platform. Ellie immediately jumped on it, prompting it to fall and break. She climbed up the nearby vines and received this dungeon's item, the Fairy Slingshot. This is a projectile item that enables some handy long-range combat. Now that she had it though, Ellie wasn't sure how to get out of this room. The solution reveals some really smart game design. In order to escape, assuming you've already broken that platform, you have to shoot this ladder stuck up in the spiderweb. The only way to do this is to shoot it with the slingshot, which means you're forced to familiarize yourself with your new item in complete safety before moving forward. In this A Link to the Past dungeon, Ellie received the bow but wasn't immediately forced to use it. It began to fade into the background of her mind until I gently suggested that she incorporate it. Here, forced use of the slingshot means that Ellie would become familiar with how it functions before ever needing to use it in a more dangerous situation.
What I don't like about it, not being able to use another analog stick to turn, is I don't get straight on in the way that I want ever.
Yeah.
Eventually, she targeted the ladder and shot it down, but the slingshot wasn't yet feeling natural for her. Back in the main room, Ellie once again used the slingshot to begin shooting down the spiders. This is a perfect example of what I was just discussing. Because she had to use the slingshot to solve that puzzle, the weapon was now top of mind when she was presented with this issue. Her first instinct was to shoot them down, and she was right. Up top, she found these big skulltulas.
It really knocked me out. Oh, these angles are killing me.
they're a bit tricky in that their front is completely invulnerable. The only way to harm them is from the back, which they'll eventually expose if you wait long enough, but Ellie was attempting to attack them too quickly to realize this. She found another one in this next room that depleted her of all her hearts. Back inside, she discovered that this room contains these platforms that will temporarily raise when this button is pressed.
I'm assuming that's like a timer for how long that'll stay up. That would be what it is. I used some context clues for this.
Well done.
Okay, it sounded like a timer.
They led her to the compass in all its 3D glory. Now, just like in past games, she could see the entire map layout and the location of all the treasure chests and the boss. Ellie managed to get past the big Skulltula and found her first Gold Skulltula, an optional species of enemy that rewards you with a token each time that you kill one of them. Now that she was behind the big boy, she had exposed his underbelly since he faces the other way by default. Interestingly, she killed him with the slingshot instead of the sword. The last matter of this room is figuring out how to unlock the door. The solution is lighting the torch on fire, but how would she realize this?
Such a genius. I'm such a genius.
There you go.
I am such a genius.
Well, what went through your head right there?
I thought about the ones on the right and if they exploded. I didn't remember, and then I remembered how big and annoying that stick has been every time I accidentally pull it out. I was like, oh, maybe that's tall enough to get fire like I'm Jeff Probst, and I'll bring it back over.
Back outside, Ellie discovered that the Skulltulas will turn around for her, so she took them all out. After that was done, Ellie realized that she'd gone as high as she could. Where to go from here?
Well, I missed that.
Oh boy. Ellie took some damage there, but that wasn't really the issue. The problem was that she had just barely missed the means of progression, which is to jump down through this web. If she'd happened to land on it, she could have moved on without issue, but I wasn't sure how easy it would be to solve this puzzle now. Before we get any further, I have to deliver an important qualifier. Shortly after we concluded this session of filming, Ellie became the victim of some bad food poisoning. It was at this point in the filming that she started to feel increasingly worse. I didn't know anything was wrong until afterwards, so just view this latter half through the lens of someone who was starting to feel really sick.
I just started to feel the craziest brain fog. Like I could not figure out what I was doing and I had no concept of time in the moment. I didn't even have the desire to try and figure out how to do something because I was just stuck on doing the same thing in a loop. The best way to describe it for me is just like intense brain fog where I didn't feel like I was comprehending anything.
It's bouncy.
It is bouncy.
Ellie quickly had the right idea, but there was a problem. The only way to actually break through the web was to jump from the very top of the dungeon. Jumping from this height would make the web bounce, but nothing more. Now, the web bouncing serves as an indicator that the player is on the right path, which she did seem to absorb, but she wasn't thinking about jumping from a higher place. She began experimenting with her items, but the slingshot, Deku nuts, and Deku sticks were all ineffective. So too was the sword. The only act the web was reacting to was jumping.
Wait a minute, that really was overwhelming. So much happened.
A little chaotic, but there we go. This is honestly one of my favorite puzzles in the entire series. It uses the dungeon space in such a cool way and quickly displays how the switch to a 3D perspective can present endless new puzzle possibilities.
I think that puzzle wouldn't have taken me that long had I not felt sick, because I know now, and I even knew right after it happened, that the room I exit on is on that top floor, and you defeat those things, and there's openings to jump down, and that is the very first thing I did. But because I was in such a brain fog, I didn't think about going up that high again. I just figured it would work from any level, whereas I think I would have come to that conclusion so much sooner had I felt well, because that's not that hard of a puzzle.
Now we were down in the lower portion of the dungeon. We found ourselves in a pretty large room with some Skulltulas, some water, and this button that lit a torch, burning the web that surrounded it. Ellie needed to use a Deku stick to burn the web on the other side, and after some gentle nudging, she did just that. This led us to another Deku scrub, who provided us with some kind of passcode, 231. We arrived in this room with water and a floating platform. Attempting to ride the platform across resulted in Link getting hit by this spiky bar. Ellie began swimming around the room to see if she could circumvent the platform, but the ledge on the far side was too tall to climb from the water. Ellie dived down and pressed this submerged button, which lowered the room's water level. I figured this would prompt her to immediately try the platform, but it wasn't clicking.
Oh, wait. I understand. I'm gonna run out of time. But I understand now, that's all that matters.
What was the moment that clicked, or why was that not clicking for you initially? What was your brain
My
working
brain just
through
wasn't
there?
connecting the physics that would mean that I could fit under that thing. That thing felt really low down no matter what.
So you were thinking you were still going to hit it, or you didn't even really kind of
Yeah, I was
consider
thinking
that?
I was still gonna hit it.
I see.
Link made the jump to the other side, where he was faced with another Skulltula. After killing it, Ellie approached this block, which Navi explained how to maneuver. Navi's interruptive tendencies are often mocked by the Zelda community, but it's interesting to see her in a different context here. As a new player, Ellie welcomed Navi's advice and was consistently learning from what she was telling her. Having a constant companion to provide insight and tips is exactly the kind of addition that a new player needs. The next couple of rooms gave Ellie a chance to continue sharpening her combat abilities and presented some more fire on web puzzles. She made it through them smoothly and eventually ended up back in a familiar place.
Wait a second. See, this is how out of it I was. I just realized this is the same room.
I mean, it looks different when if you're looking at it from a different perspective.
The other side of this room featured another web on the ground that needed to be destroyed somehow. Now, last time, Ellie used gravity to break through, but this time it would be impossible to jump from a high enough place. The solution here calls upon the mechanic that the dungeon has slowly been teaching, the use of fire. Ellie smartly picked up on this and realized that thanks to this block she pushed over the ledge, she could now jump freely between both sides of the room. This means she could bring fire to the web, but there was only one issue. Ellie couldn't figure out what to do once she got the fire to the web. We began talking through all the various functions of which Link is capable. I was trying to prompt her to think about Link's somersault, but Ellie had forgotten about it.
So that was it.
Well, that worked, but
The kneeling.
that did work. I've never solved it that way before, so you you discovered something I've not done
Hell
before.
yeah!
I didn't even know crouching would work there. I guess there's more than one way to skin a Deku. We were next presented with 3 Deku scrubs at once. Ellie stunned them all, but something didn't seem to be working. It turns out that the order in which you stun them will determine your success, as indicated by the passcode we got earlier. She got the order right and received a tip from the scrub to help defeat this dungeon's boss. Speaking of which...
Oh, scared the hell out of me. Ew, I hate spiders.
Time for our first boss. Queen Goma is a formidable foe and presents a much more cinematic fight than previous Zelda boss fights. This is the 3rd dimension, baby. Your goal is to strike her in the eye, but that's easier said than done. In order to damage Queen Goma's eye, you first have to stun her. Ellie was attempting to attack her without doing so first, which would prove futile. She died on her first attempt, but was back in the saddle quickly. Ellie first needed to strike Goma with either her slingshot or a Deku Nut, then she could attack with the sword.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's right. That's right. Run away.
Between each cycle, Goma climbs onto the ceiling and births some underlings, but they're not very tough. She had the right idea at this point now, she just needed to rinse and repeat. The biggest flaw in Ellie's approach at this point is that she wasn't targeting Goma to shoot her. Trying to shoot in first person is much more cumbersome, leading her to miss half the time and have to push through an extra cycle. One godsend in this fight is the fact that the arena is filled with grass on its perimeter. This meant that Ellie had unlimited access to extra health and ammo.
Ooh.
Oh,
Damn, you got lucky
who
there.
else was scared? Oh, I was right on her too. This was a mistake. I didn't get lucky. I'm good. Let's be clear about
You
that.
got the skill.
Oh, she's pixelating. She's pixelating before my eyes.
Just like that, Queen Goma was a thing of the past, in only 2 attempts.
I honestly really enjoyed that boss. I thought that it was easy to learn what she was doing, and I only died once before getting put back in it. Being in 3D made it feel more familiar and easier, and I don't think there were as many phases of the boss as there have been in other Zelda games. So I found it to be a better introductory first real boss.
A victorious Ellie snagged her heart container and teleported back outside. Cleansed of his arachnid issue, the Great Deku Tree gave us a little history lesson. He told us of this world's origin. It was formed by 3 goddesses who left the Triforce in their wake when they departed. The Triforce lies in the sacred realm and is deeply desired by the same evil man who put this curse on him. In a last gesture of altruism, the Deku Tree gifts us with the Kukuri's Emerald that will be instrumental further in the adventure. With that, the Great Deku Tree fell to his illness.
So he's dead? That is so sad.
It was now time to head out to the greater world, but not before being gifted with an ocarina from our friend Saria. I'm thinking this may come in handy at some point. After getting some instruction from the ever-wise owl Kaepora Gaebora, we were finally let loose into Hyrule Field. This is a hugely expansive area and ostensibly functions as Ocarina of Time's overworld. Our first stop was the one and only Hyrule Castle, but Ellie decided to do a little exploring first. She ended up in Lon Lon Ranch, a cozy enclave of horses and cows. Ellie continued exploring Lon Lon Ranch. Normally a safe location, even the ranch becomes treacherous at night. These aggressive birds were giving us a bit of a Hitchcock scenario.
Death by bird at Lon Lon Ranch.
After that, it was time to go. Unlike previous games, Ocarina of Time features a dynamic day-night cycle when you're exploring the overworld. This is an incredibly cool addition that carries mechanical ramifications beyond just aesthetic ones. For example, the night brings about enemies that aren't present in the day, but even more interesting is that day and night will present different NPCs within one of the game's town settings. It's worth exploring during both the night and day to see what you can discover.
Oh, look at these graphics. Look at that.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
We
like
gotta
a
load, we gotta load.
Ellie headed into the city of Hyrule, a bustling center filled with plentiful characters with whom to chat. She started making the rounds, learning plenty of useful information as she rubbed elbows. I gotta say, the character models in this game look kind of insane. You can really see how pixel-based games have aged more gracefully than those of the primitive polygonal era. Still, there's an undeniable charm to this style. After walking around for a bit, Ellie headed towards Hyrule Castle. It was a short trek to reach it, but the guards were on high alert. If we were to infiltrate, we'd have to be sneaky. The guards don't move at all, making them easy to avoid, but they're plentiful in number, meaning that a specific route is key to victory.
I'm just gonna run past him and see what happens. Yeah. Oh, I get kicked out. Okay.
We got caught, but getting thrown out back to the front of the grounds crossed our path with Malin, the daughter of Talon, owner of Lon Lon Ranch. She gave us an egg, which is really good as this item would be necessary for an upcoming puzzle. Had Ellie not gotten thrown out when she did, she may have gotten stuck. The egg hatched into a chicken with the rising sun as we searched for a way to circumvent the guards.
I knew that looked like a different texture, so I should be able to climb it.
That was very astute of you.
Now that we'd snuck past everybody, we could worm our way into the castle. The only catch is that Talon is asleep right in our way. Somehow, we've got to wake this guy up. Ellie tried everything. She played him a little ocarina, she tried pushing one of these boxes into him, and despite her hesitation, shot him with the slingshot. Nothing was working though, despite the escalating violence, so I was wondering how long it would take for her to put the pieces together.
Can this guy, like, crow or something?
Well done, well done.
There we go. Ellie's puzzle-solving skills were continuing to sharpen. I encourage her to look at all the tools at her disposal when trying to solve a puzzle, particularly those she received recently. Talon ran back to find his daughter, while we headed into the castle. This next section is unlike anything else in the game. Contending with fixed camera angles, the player has to sneak past even more guards, and this time, they are moving. It's really not that difficult, with each segment barely increasing in complexity. She had one close call, but managed to get through everything on her very first try. Now, it was time to meet the princess herself. Zelda provided us with some more background on Hyrule and introduced us to none other than Ganondorf, a man she claims seems pretty evil, despite his supposed allegiance to the king. After the information, we received Zelda's letter, which will presumably help us at some point in the future.
She got lip injections.
The striking Impa taught us our first ocarina song, Zelda's Lullaby. This is just the beginning for our ocarina playing, a hugely important mechanic throughout the remainder of the game. Musical instruments in general would become a massive component of Zelda games for many entries to come. Now that we had our song and letter, it was time to move on to our next destination, Death Mountain, as instructed by Impa. It supposedly held our next sacred stone. Before we could reach the mountain though, we were met with Kakariko Village. Just like in A Link to the Past, this cozy town features plentiful NPCs to chat with, buildings to explore, and secrets to discover. Before long, Ellie found a woman who had lost her cuckoos around town. A lover of all creatures resembling chickens, she decided to help. A Link to the Past features plenty of optional tasks and side secrets, but such side content feels hugely expanded in Ocarina of Time. More than ever, if you want to stray from the beaten path, there's so much for you to do. Beyond that, exploration just feels more fleshed out in 3D. Just Kakariko Village feels like it hides so much, from its rooftops to its accompanying graveyard filled with secrets. This rich world means that you can more easily take a break from the dungeons and still feel like you're being productive. More than any Zelda game so far, Ellie was really enjoying longer play sessions of Ocarina before feeling ready to take a break, which I think is born of the game's increased breadth and depth.
I think exploring and finding things are one of my favorite things to do in all the 3D games I've played and grown up playing. I just really enjoy that aspect, and I think something about it being 3D makes me want to do it more, whereas 2D, I'm thinking more two-dimensionally rather than three-dimensionally. I'm not thinking about the characters I can meet or things I can discover, because it doesn't feel as much like a three-dimensional rounded out world to me.
After saving a number of cuckoos, Ellie decided it was probably time to move on, so she headed towards the town gate. The gate was blocked by this guard, but once Ellie busted out Zelda's letter, he had no choice but to let us through. Beyond providing access though, the guard provided us with some advice, letting us know that it may be worth investing in a metal shield that won't catch on fire. He also asked us to pick up a mask. Man, this guy's chatty. Ellie ran back to the market and bought herself the Hylian shield. It's a little too big for us, acting more like a turtle shell than a traditional shield, but hey, now we've got it. We also checked out the mask shop and took the only one we could. Back in Kakariko, we gave the guard the mask and pressed on to Death Mountain. Along the path, we met our first Goron, an iconic Zelda race. Ellie dodged a few of them rolling down the hills until she arrived at Goron City. This cozy cave town is the home of this lovable group of rock eaters. As we quickly learn though, they're currently unable to eat their preferred rocks from Dodongo's cavern, as it's been blocked by a giant boulder. We eventually arrived at the bottom floor, where we were informed that Big Brother Goron locked himself in his room. It would seem we needed to find some way to enter inside. Ellie found these bomb flowers while exploring, which really piqued her interest, but she couldn't figure out what to do with them.
I'm confused. I don't know how to get fire.
Because she saw all of these unlit torches down here, and because this Goron talked about lighting sticks on fire, Ellie began to think that igniting all the torches was the key to progression, and that makes total sense. Why wouldn't she assume that at this point? The actual solution was to play Zelda's Lullaby outside the room, so after she'd spent a decent amount of time experimenting, I gave her a little nudge. After talking it through, it clicked that she could attempt the song, so she did just that and gained access to Darunia, the Chief Goron. Unfortunately, he's in a really bad mood and doesn't want to talk to us. This section begins what's certainly the most obtuse puzzle of the game thus far. Ellie immediately lit these torches on fire, thinking that that was still the way to progress the story. It made this big pot spin, but this is just an optional objective. The actual solution was far away from here. The only real hint that Ellie had received at this point was from Navi, who had repeatedly wondered what Saria would think about our big adventure. We needed to go back to visit her and learn another song for our ocarina.
What has Navi been saying to you lately?
What would Saria think?
I decided to be a little more definitive in pointing Ellie in the right direction on this one. This is one instance of the game where I'm not sure the player gets enough information. If you play Zelda's Lullaby again for Darunia, I believe he expresses that he wants a more upbeat song, but still, this is pretty difficult to figure out.
I thought that puzzle sequence was pretty confusing. I think I just got in my head that it felt like the game was telling me I'm going away from this village
forest that I live in with the other fairies, and I won't be back here for a while because I have to do this big grand adventure mission. That felt like the natural progression of what was being communicated to me, so the thought process of even going back felt so unnatural to me.
Back in Kukuri Forest, Ellie couldn't find Saria, so I pointed her in the direction of the Lost Woods. Again, I'm not sure how she'd find this without a little assistance. Lost Woods is one of my favorite areas of the game. Each room features multiple paths that can be taken, but most of them will actually take you back to Kukuri Forest. The key to finding the right path is listening to which one presents the loudest music, as explained by Kaepora. Ellie poked around until she found the proper path. This led her to a Wolfos fight, and then a maze with a bunch of Deku scrubs. After this gauntlet, we finally found Saria. She taught us Saria's song. With that, it was time to head all the way back to Goron City to see what we could do with it.
Oh, get into it.
Oh yeah! After busting a move, Darudia gave us the Goron bracelet, which finally enables us to pick up the bomb flowers. After creating a shortcut between Goron City and Lost Woods, Ellie went back outside and cleared a path to Dodongo's cavern.
This looks like a dungeon. This is scary. This looks like Bowser's castle.
Right you are, Ellie, right you are. Sadly, just as we revealed the depths of Dodongo's cavern, we were out of time. The jump to 3D proved hugely impactful for Ellie's enjoyment, bringing her much closer to the kind of experiences with which she's familiar. I figured the timeless charm held by Ocarina of Time would work its magic on Ellie, and it would appear that it did.
This is my #1 favorite so far. I like it a lot.
If you enjoyed this episode, why not check out another one? And if you really enjoyed this episode, you can become a patron or channel member to help us make more. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.